Hi, my name is Laura Finn, and I'm in high school, and I am also a Girl Scout. I am doing my Gold Award on bats and bat education. So to end my project, I am building a bat house, and by the end of this video, you'll be able to build a bat house too.
For this project, you will need one sheet of 2 feet by 4 feet by 1/2 inch plywood outdoor grade. You will also need 1 inch by 2 inch by 8 feet pine furring strip, 1 pint dark water-based stain exterior grade, as well as 1 tube paintable latex and 20 to 30 exterior grade screws.
We're going to measure out, using the plywood, what the top part of the internal frame will be. So you simply line it up all the way against the plywood, and then make a mark along the edge where the plywood meets it. And this will be where you cut. Okay, so once you get the pencil mark on, you'll use clamps to clamp it down to something sturdy. We're using this chair, and you use the pencil mark, and you'll have to get your saw ready. So now that we finished cutting this piece, we're going to have to measure out two 20.5-inch pieces. So you take your zig, make sure it's all lined up, and then just make your mark at 20.5. And then you'll do the same thing with up here. So now we have our three pieces, the two 20.5 pieces and the one 24-inch piece that we measured against the width of the plywood. So next we're going to be measuring out what the plywood's going to be. It's all 24 inches of width, and so we need a 26.5 piece, a 16.5 piece, and then a 5-inch piece. So first we'll be measuring the 5-inch piece. So now that we've measured the 5 inches, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be cutting along the 5 inches. And to make sure that I keep the saw straight, I've clamped this 24-inch piece of wood, of the furring wood that we already cut. And I've clamped it there along with the saw, so that way as I move the saw along, it'll stay as straight as possible. So now we're going to measure the 16.5 piece. I'm using this side because it's the more of the factory, nice clean cut edge side than my own side. So I take it and I'll measure 16.5, put a little notch. Now we finished cutting this. We have our 26.5 by 24, our 16.5 by 24, and our 5 by 24. And along with these, now we finished all of our cutting. So now we have, this is going to be the back, these are going to be the front together, and then this is going to make up the internal frame. Okay, so now we have our backboard. So I'm just going to show you how it's going to be assembled in the end, and then we'll start finishing up. So we have, this is going to be the backboard. And so we have these pieces, and this is going to be our internal framework. So the bats will be here. That goes here, and then this piece goes here, and this piece goes here. So why we have the pieces a little bit separate is so we have a vent for the bats to breathe and have more air in there. And so this is going to be the landing area. So imagine this. This will be like the wall, and the bats, it'll be hanging. This is the top, this is the bottom, and the bats will be landing here. Because the bats climb using the claws on their wings, we need to make grooves along the back so they can have a place to hang. So I found that the best way to do this, I'm using a saw, is just put the tip in and then just drag it across. Because you need to have it deep enough, but it doesn't need to be pretty. So it doesn't need to be too deep though. Like 1/32 of an inch is fine, 1/16 of an inch is fine. No need to measure though, just make the grooves. Okay, so now I've got most of it done, so I'm brushing out the grooves to get all like the little sawdust out. Brushing it out along the way. So you see, it doesn't have to be pretty, it doesn't have to be nice, just grooves. Okay, and I'm gonna get a little bit more up here, because you can see there's more down here than is up here. And then we should be done soon. Okay, so our next step is going to be to stain this. And so we have a Canyon Brown stain, and this is according to our temperature. So you can look on the Bat Conservation International site, and it'll give you what region of the United States you're in, and it'll give you like a dark to medium, or like a medium to light, around what stain you should have, because it's according to temperature. So, for the stain, and you have to use stain for this because paint will fill in the grooves. And we're using the stain in the paint to help keep the temperature the same and to help preserve the wood. But stain must be used on the inside with the grooves because otherwise the paint will fill in the grooves. And we can't have that. You can use paint on the outside of it, but definitely on the inside it has to be stained. So, you gotta shake up the stain a lot first. So after you finish shaking, you'll open it with this, just like you open a normal paint can. And then make sure you stir it so you get everything off the bottom and everything's mixed up. And then make sure, try to save as much paint as possible. Or stain, I should say. So now we've stained these. And make sure you wash the paintbrushes so the stain won't dry on them. And now we have to wait about 24 hours before we do the next coat. Alright, it's the next day and everything is dry now. So what we're going to be doing now is we're going to be putting it together. So we have the internal frame here, which we're going to be, and so we'll have to screw it in, and for that we have 1-inch screws and a power drill and caulk to make sure everything stays nice and dry for the bats. And then we'll be putting these parts on after. Okay, so when you're clamping, so we're going to clamp it next so we can drill the holes. And when you're clamping, make sure all the edges are even, and then tighten the clamps, and then you'll be ready to start drilling. And so put it down and get the drill out. We're going to be doing 5 screws probably. One here and then 1, 2, 3, 5. And it doesn't matter if it goes all the way through because we'll be putting the caulk in to seal the wood.
Go.
Okay, so our next step is going to be to take this apart so we can actually screw it in. So you have to take the screws off, the clamps off. So I'm just going to make a mark here and on my other piece of wood to make sure I know which way the wood goes so you don't mix up and turn the other piece of wood around.
Okay.
Now it's time to caulk, and you want about the thickness of a pencil. So you'll start at this end, and then you'll just squeeze hard. Okay, so now that we have all the caulk on, you have a piece of wood underneath the other side to make this even. And what you'll be doing is you'll be lining it up it's all straight, and then lowering it. And then using these to make sure the holes are in the right place. So, and you can use paper clips, whatever. Okay, and so now all of the holes are pretty much in the right place. So now we can start using the screws and the power drill to drill it in. Okay, so now I've changed out the driller into a screwdriver part, and the tip's a little bit magnetic, so you can put your screw on, and it will be doing the 3 middle ones first while leaving in the little holders for the other 2. So, place it here. Okay, so some helpful hints for drilling is you could move this part down over it, and then stick the little piece in, and then move this down, and make sure you bear into it. And start off slow, and then voila, it's screwed in. Alright, so now we're going to be doing the same thing we just did for this one, except for the other 2. So the first step is to clamp it. Now we're going to get out the power drill. Alright, so we're going to drill 4 holes in this one. Alright, since we're doing both the sides at once, you should make sure you label them like A or B, or X and Y. So this is going to be A, and then this will be A. Put it on both pieces of wood. And then you also still want to make the mark of, so you know which side is which. Okay, and now we're good. Okay, so now we're doing side B, same thing, just drilling holes. Okay, so we're going to do the same thing we've done to the other sides to this side now. So we've got it all drilled up, and so we're going to get ready and place it, line it up. Let's see, so it'll be right there. So we first need to, so now we're going to caulk it. That located the holes, so we can now have everything's lined up, and so now we're going to start screwing. Right, so now we want to wipe off the excess caulk after you screw things in. So you can just take a paper towel and wipe it right down. Now we've got this clamped down. One thing you want to make sure is you want to look at it. You'll see there's the 3 pieces of wood here, and you want to make sure that this screw that's going to be that you're drilling in doesn't touch the other screw on the bottom side. So I'm going to look at it, feel it, and I'm going to make a little mark for where I want it to go. Do the same thing for the other side. Okay, and now that I've got that done, I'm just going to do an overview because this is kind of important. You want to make sure that once you drill the holes, you're going to screw it in without caulking it, just these 2 holes. And then you're going to drill the other holes to go along this side. And you want to do that because you don't want the board moving around as you drill more holes. So even with the clamps, we want to make sure we screw it in, and then we're going to, once we drill all the holes, we're going to unscrew these so they're all holes, caulk it, and then screw it in like we've done for the other ones. Let's get started. Just enough so it holds it. Alright, so that's good enough for that one. Now let's do the other one. Alright, so we're good enough with that for now. So now let's get to clamping the other sides, and then with the extra screws to help keep sure it's nice and perfect, we'll be good. So now we're going to drill all the holes on the side, all the ones down the middle here, and then down that side, just to make sure we get all of our holes done, and the 2 holes that we already have done and the screws are in to keep it in place. So to make sure that we don't have the same screws and the positions on either side, we'll make a little mark here, and then look over here, and make our mark here. Alright, let's get to drilling. We're going to drill 12 holes. 12. Start drilling. Alright, so now we're going to take these screws out so we can caulk it, and then we'll screw all the rest of them in together. So for this screw, all you do is you reverse it. You push the little thing up, and then it'll do the same thing except unscrewing. So. Alright, and now, with all the holes drilled in, we are ready for caulking. Mistake, we put the caulk too far down, because you can't forget we have another piece over there that we're going to put on the bottom that we haven't drilled the holes in yet for. So we're just going to scrape this up right here. Just handy if you make a mistake, you just use a scraper right there, and then you can just put it into a paper towel. And do the same on the other side. Make sure you know about where it is, and then just scrape it up. Alright, so now we're putting this on, and so make sure it lines up with everything, and then so finding the holes. Alright, we found that one, and we'll stick a paper clip in to mark the place, and we'll find this hole. There we go, and now we're going to start screwing. Alright, so now we're going to try to get this piece on, and then we're going to be pretty much done with the drilling work. So, we want to measure it up, but it should be almost perfect, but let's measure just to make sure. There should be a ½ inch of space in between. And so, we'll measure from the full marks just to... And so, it should be... It'll be a little bit, at least for the way we cut it, so we might have been slightly off cutting, but it'll be a little bit over. Measure both sides. Yeah. So, and we'll make sure it's nice and square with that. Alright. So, take my little mark there. And now we are going to drill. Alright, so we gotta find the hole. There we go, found it. So now we'll measure this one to make sure it doesn't, about the same. And there we go. Alright, so we've got the holes for both of them, and they're all marked, and so now we're just going to make the holes for the other two. Alright, so next we're going to caulk. Alright, so remember you don't want to caulk all the way to the edge. Okay. There's that side. This side up. Alright, so the holes are aligned, so now I'm going to screw the ones in while the others are holding in place. Alright, so now I'm going to do the next three. Okay, so now we finished all the screwing, so our baghouse is pretty much completed. So make sure you get the caulk off the edges. So just wipe that down. And then, pretty much all we have to do now is we have to stain it, and then optional roofing jobs. So, but it looks like it's going to rain, so we'll just do the staining tomorrow. But it's almost completed. Alright, so we're back for our last day and we'll be staining the outside now. So, don't forget you have to shake your stain a lot. That's what we're going to be doing, is we're going to be placing the baghouse on these two things so that way we can get it all sides in one day instead of having to wait till they dry and then doing it another day. So, don't forget to shake it a lot. Okay, so now we're going to open up the stain. And so we're in the backyard actually now because I don't want to get the deck get any stain on the deck because it would stain it, which is what it does. So, alright. And so make sure you stir and you scrape the bottom of the can to make sure everything's moving around. Okay. And first we are going to stain the very, very bottom. Alright, so we're going to be staining the very bottom edges first. So, this one here, the other side here, and then along here. It's okay if you get a little bit down the bottom, the other side, because we'll have to stain that. Alright, so we stained the bottom edges, and so now we are putting it on this stick thing. You can just paint one side if you want and then wait till it dries, but we figured this would be easiest. So we have two of them and we just stick it on, and this way you could paint the back and the front, and it'll dry without you having to wait for it. Okay, so now let's get started. Alright, so make sure you get all the edges, the side edge, the top, and the other side, and of course the front and the back. Alright, so did all the sides now. Don't forget you have to do this side and that side, and make sure you get the inside right there. But once you finish that, you're all done. We'll probably want to do a second coat tomorrow, but we have to wait till this coat dries first. And don't forget to clean up. You have to rinse your brushes and put everything away. That's it for now.